The Irrational Confidence Podcast. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and it is week number 3. It is here with us. It's a loaded weekend of really intriguing matchups. I'm joined by my co-host, the man who found out his bed was in disguise. It was an undercover operation. Fresh, how you doing, buddy?
So I'm doing fantastic. Can't believe it's our 4th preview already of the season. This year, can we tap the brakes a little bit? This week, though, week 0, I had great anticipation for the 4 or 5 games there was. Everyone loves week 1 and Labor Day weekend. Last weekend, coming into it, we all were like, This weekend, the matchups, we're going to preview 5 here. We could have done maybe a 3-part episode and had 15 games previewed. That's how loaded this week is, folks.
Yeah, it's a great weekend for college football. There's a lot of intrigue out there. I'm intrigued. I haven't heard what your fresh pick is for it. That'll come at the end of the show here, folks. Hey, Fresh has promised me that it is not one of the 5 games that we're picking. So if you guys want to pull out your Hard Rock app and follow along, Fresh is 3-1 on the year for his fresh picks. So I listened to the man. That's on you. That's on you. So before we get going, guys, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode, because we're going to do this all season long. We're going to have a preview episode. We're going to recap the entire college football season, and eventually we'll move to NFL stuff as well. But we're here for the long haul for the season. Let's get right into it for week number 3, Fresh. This is a game we circled on our calendars early on in the season when we were looking at the entire schedule this summer. This is an ACC matchup. The Clemson Tigers are traveling to Atlanta, Georgia to play the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. Clemson's 1-1 on the year, had the loss to LSU. Georgia Tech is a weird 2-0. At time of record, Clemson is a 9.5-point road favorite. Over-under is set at 58.5. I feel that line is really, really high in this one here, Fresh, but are you seeing something that I'm not?
Well, coming in this game, I think the biggest concern is just the Clemson offense. Versus LSU, their defense played great. You only give 17 points to LSU. They were very effective. They got off the field, especially in the first half. But then last week versus Troy, that offense was non-existent. And they were able to the defense allowed them to crawl back into it in the second half and eventually pull away, win by double digits. But we had a lot of expectations for Clemson coming into the season offensively, not just defensively, but offensively too. And that has been seriously lacking. We had concerns about them not bringing back an experienced running back. We have not seen that running game truly take off. The receivers, non-existent, explosive. We're not seeing the offensive line truly take over a ball game when it has to. But the most shocking of all, Cade Klubnik just looking like he was his freshman year, not efficient with the football, not taking the shots, just very ineffective across the board. Per ESPN has their QBR ratings for all Power 4 quarterbacks. His QBR rating is 34.6. The only Power 4 quarterbacks worse than Cade Klubnik so far after 2.5 weeks, we'll say. Gronowski at Iowa, Gio Lopez at North Carolina, Preston Stone at Northwestern, and Ben Gilbranson at Stanford. That's not a murderer's row of quarterbacks even coming into the season. If you're in that company and you're supposed to be playing for a top 5 or top 10 national team, an ACC contender, playoff contender, you've got to grow up. This is not your freshman, your second, third career start. You've been through the battles. So Cade in this offense and Dabo in that communication, you've got to figure it out. If you can't figure it out for Georgia Tech, this season could really slip away very, very fast. And this is kind of the tipping point. You always get like, all right, week 1, it's a ranked opponent. Shake it off. Somebody has to win, somebody has to lose. But last week versus Troy, they just looked very mundane, very ineffective. There's a lot of clunkiness. And you kind of look another comparison last year. They played Georgia tough in the first half. They ended up losing 31-3, but the next week they came out and dropped 70 on somebody and 60 the next week after that. They came out with a vengeance and a fire. I didn't see that after an opening loss versus a ranked opponent. They did not come out to fire versus Troy. What are we going to get this week on the road in a hostile environment with a Georgia Tech football team that is really finding itself the past 1.5 years and coming in with a lot of expectations? This is going to be a place where they're going to have to be ready to rock and roll. Georgia Tech took out Miami last year. They obviously gave Georgia a heck of a run for their money in the playoff. I mean, the final game of the regular season last year, old fashioned, hey, you're going to have to be locked in. And we kind of thought Clemson was done 2 years ago. Then Tyler from Spartanburg came in, I guess, pissed off the entire locker room. The last year, slow start, and they had a resurgent end. What team are we going to actually get on Saturday? I know we're going to get from Georgia Tech. We're going to get a very physical football team, a very efficient offense, a lot of Haynes King, a lot of Jamal Haynes, Eric Rivers, and those guys in the receiving department playing well, and the defense being very rugged. I have no idea what we're going to get offensively from Clemson. Defensively, I know we're going to have those guys. They're going to play tight. I think Georgia Tech maybe can score 24, maybe 20 tops. They might only need 17 points to win the ballgame because Clemson's offense is so dysfunctional. This game at the end is going to fall on Cade Klubnik, and if he can actually knock the cobwebs out and figure out what he has to do and actually lead some sustained drives, there are some big boy passes on third down, and Clemson, in addition to that, finding a running game. Because if they don't, Georgia Tech's not just going to beat them. They're going to beat the trash out of them. And the 3.5 is the Clemson talent on paper coming in is what's giving them some of that benefit, and maybe having a more quote unquote polished passing quarterback. But from the rugged toughness of a team, I trust Georgia Tech. So this is going to be a very interesting ball game here. Weirdly enough, though, I think this is the kind of game that Dabo actually loves, and he is going to challenge the manhood of the entire Clemson football team. I think that the 3.5 is okay, and I'm actually going to take 9.5. I had 3.5 in their game. 9.5 is a little tough. If it was anything about a touchdown, I would take it. I think Clemson wins the ball game, but they don't cover that 9.5. Like the touchdown is probably the max they're going to do. But this is a game where I think Dabo challenged the manhood of the entire football team.
This is gut check time for me for Clemson and the Tigers. You go down 1-2 on the season with how good Florida State has looked. Miami has looked respectable. We'll find out a little bit more about Miami this weekend. And then you take a look if Georgia Tech pulls this win off and goes to 3-0, and then you do have SMU kind of hanging out west there. That's still a decent ball club that just won in a shootout with or lost in a shootout to Baylor there. Clemson really could find themselves like slipping and losing that ground in the ACC, where they're in the same boat they were last year. They have to win the conference in order to get into the playoff. Like, I would be this game, Clemson has to have it. And you talked about Klubnik there. Fresh, he's been an average quarterback. If you take a look at where he's throwing the football, he's under the 60% mark. I get it. He's 59.7%. We're only 2 games into the season. But again, the standard line for good quarterback play in college football is the 60% completion percentage. He's 2 for 2 with his interception to touchdown ratio. He's thrown for just over 400 yards. So what? Okay, I'll give him 210 a game. It's not special. He's not special. He hasn't played special at all. And the thing I'll say this about Georgia Tech, the reason I came into the season so high on Georgia Tech was fact is what they're returning talent-wise. And every single big game Georgia Tech had last year, those kids came in ready to play. They may have lost the football game, but they were a team that gave everyone fits. They were never a lesser opponent. They never played like a lesser opponent. They might not be able to match the talent Clemson has for 4 quarters, but you know what? They're going to give a whole heck of a lot better effort than Clemson's been giving. I think that there may be a overrated component to Clemson. I like Georgia Tech plus 9.5 in this game here, Fresh. I'm with you, though. I'll say Clemson wins the game because they need it so bad, and their season is hypothetically on life support 3 weeks into the year. And I hate when I would say that about a program, but let's be honest with ourselves. 1-2. Haynes King and Jamal Haynes, both of those guys, you got to account for them. I think they're going to put a test on that Clemson defensive line. I'm intrigued to see how the Stockton kid, Bailey Stockton, the sophomore, does up against this Clemson secondary there so far. He's been their leading receiver. Let's see how he does matched up against better corners. But again, I think Georgia Tech has shown, and they have a proven track record, be able to scheme guys open. So I really thought about this long and hard to take Georgia Tech in this game. I really did. I almost like Georgia Tech outright, but I'll take the points in there.
Yeah, the points I think make the most sense. If Clemson somehow covers 10, then maybe they were sleepwalking versus Troy, but right now I don't trust that element. I think they're just a good enough football team to get a win, but they're not good enough to blow them out.
All right, Fresh, let's go to one of the rivalries that we may be saying goodbye to in the SEC for a couple of years. As the SEC moves to 9 games, this is not a protected opponent. If the new scheduling model comes out, Georgia is traveling to Knoxville to face the Tennessee Volunteers. Both teams are 2-0 on the season. Right now, at time of record, Georgia is a 3.5-point favorite. Over-under is set at 50.5 here. I think we're going to learn a boatload about these two teams by the end of this weekend. One of these teams is going to be ascending. One of them is going to be descending and taking a step back into the pack.
Well, first off, coming in this game, a lot on Gunnar Stockton and this Georgia offensive line and Mike Bobo. Last week, you're playing Austin Peay, an FCS, a low FCS opponent, and the dysfunction, turnover in the opening drive, dysfunction across the board, not getting any consistent flow in the offense. Now, look, if you've watched Georgia football for a while, as frustrating as it can be, Kirby in non-conference games like this wants to be very vanilla, get through the game, test things out, but don't really show much. But at some point, you're playing such a bad opponent, you have to lean on them and just blow somebody out. Where's the killer instinct on offense? Like, that's what has the Georgia fan base, myself included, kind of frustrated, boiling over. It's where's that lethal cutthroat attack with all the talent, all the recruits? You bring in all this stuff. Well, it's time for them to start producing. We know Gunnar can throw the ball downfield. We all watched the Sugar Bowl last year with Notre Dame. We saw him make some throws in the second half versus Texas. Let's get vertical to the passing game a little bit. We didn't actually see them get vertical to the passing game much versus Marshall and didn't at all versus Austin Peay. So that is a concerning element. If Tennessee starts loading the box, how are you going to be able to attack and show some progress and show some versatility in your offense? This past week versus Austin Peay, the average pass attempt yards-wise was 2.5 yards, I think, or run on 3. So everything's basically a dump pass, a check down, or a screen. There were opportunities down the field for some explosive plays, and either Gunnar didn't see it, he didn't feel comfortable making the throw, whatever. But that is a problem. When you're playing an opponent like that, you should have more superior talent. You should be able to go out there and take the risks and be a little forward in your offense. And this leads me to my next stat here that I'm going to sort of share. This was put out on Twitter today. Brent Rollins, who has a Twitter account, very good analysis and does a lot of film study. There are two power forward quarterbacks in the country so far this season that have 0 big time throws, which is 15 yards or more, and 0 turnover worthy plays. So basically the ball was intercepted or hit a defensive back in the hands that should have been picked. One quarterback has a 69.5% completion percentage, 417 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks. The other one is 69%, 416, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. The first one's Drew Allard. The second one's Gunnar Stockton. They are extremely efficient. They are showing a lot of high completion percentage passes, but they're not challenging any defense vertically. Drew Allard hasn't had to do it. Stockton hasn't do it, but that is kind of worrisome. They're like, all right, at some point, both these quarterbacks and both these offenses are going to need someone to get vertical in the passing game. You go out and both these, ironically, both programs went out and heavily invested in the transfer portal at the receiver position. So there has to be a fine line of testing what you have and really hiding it and actually having some game experience to run it. So that is the big thing coming into the ballgame. I think Georgia's defense will be fine. They're going to be coached up. They're ready to go. The Georgia offense, is it Gunnar Stockton not being efficient or having the confidence to make the throws? Is it the offensive line not being gelled? Because they still have yet to show a cohesive approach. There's 2 guys, Gaston and Green the third, who are unknown from a health perspective if they're playing or not. If they play, okay. If they're injured, that's bigger even dent because they're 2 of your best, and the offensive line already has questions. And then Bobo, there's a lot of, is the play calling too conservative? But you know what? The play calling is there. The guys still have to execute. Bobo ran an offense that set SEC records with Aaron Murray. He's not changing the play call. Maybe it's the same kind of philosophy, but at some point the guy's going to execute too. So there's probably a fine line of I can't call this because my guys aren't ready to run it, or I don't feel confident in my team to achieve success on this play. But then also when it's called, the guys that they have to achieve the success and if they don't, that falls on the offensive coordinator, but the players are the ones executing. So where's that mix? This is going to be a big challenge because Tennessee's defense in the past 3 years has gotten a lot better. Yes, their two corners are not playing this ball game. They're both going to be out, but you're going to be on the road. First career road start for Gunnar Stockton. A lot of these freshmen in offense, first road start. Some of these new transfers, first time getting cohesive on the same. How are they all going to be ready to approach this game? I'm going to think we're going to get an old school Kirby Smart mentality here of run the football, run the football, run the football. Very similar to a 2017-ish, a 2018-ish mentality. Run the ball, play defense, kill the clock. Just get out with the W if you can. You don't need to put up 45 on the point and blow somebody out by 30. Just win the game and be effective and maybe protect your quarterback. Don't get him exposed. On the other side, Tennessee, Aguilar's played real well. That offense is really gelled around him. The whole team seems to buy in and really are drawn in compared to Nico. It's very similar to the Gunnar Stockton Carson thing where they hated the quarterback before and they kind of embraced the other guy. They've gotten vertical to pass game. They've been very efficient. I think Tennessee, this is their best chance to get a dub. I'm terrified coming into this game. I've not been terrified of Tennessee in a long time. If Georgia can maintain that first half rush of energy that Tennessee and the fan base are going to bring, it gives them a chance. Last year they were down double digits early and they found a way at home. You can't let that build on the road because then eventually Neal will take over against an inexperienced offense. Be effective, be efficient. I'm not picking against the Dogs. I trust Kirby Smart. It's not going to be a pretty game. It's not going to be sexy. They're going to find a way to scrounge around and beat one out. It's going to be a brawl. I can see Tennessee winning, but in this game, Georgia's going to win. The 3.5 is weird, but I'm going to take the Dogs to cover the 3.5.
Fresh, it's so interesting because of what are in preseason expectations for both of these teams. I felt that Tennessee was going to have to reload a little bit, rebuild a bit. They lost quite a bit in the draft last year with Pierce, Sampson, a couple other guys as well. They hit the portal. And then on top of that, going through the whole Nico drama, it looks like after 2 weeks, it looks like Tennessee has dodged one of the biggest bullets in the world with letting Nico just kind of go off to UCLA. And
UCLA is trash, but he's not helped their case at all either.
Right. Aguilar has played well. He kind of reminds me of early stages Hendon Hooker a little bit, where he's conservative. He plays the game within the system. He follows exactly what Heupel is telling him to do. There's a couple of things this is going to come down to, though, for me. One, Gunnar Stockton. We're going to learn a whole heck of a lot about this kid. I like Georgia. I like Georgia's team. I like Georgia's running back room. I do like Georgia's defense a lot. And during our preseason, I referred to them as an elite level defense. I'll be the first one to tell you, I don't like Gunnar Stockton. I'm not a fan of his. He hasn't done any in the time I have watched him. And again, I'm not going to sit here and say that I've watched every single down, every single snap that he's taken. But in the time that I've watched him, I feel like something's missing. Something's missing out of him that I was waiting for a Georgia quarterback. Now, is this kid good enough to start at 93% of the programs in the entire country? Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's probably about 8 programs in the entire country that this kid would not be QB1 at. With that being said, though, he's not popped off the page to me. So I need to see something pop off the page. It's going to come down to him making decisions. He can use his legs a little bit, which I think at times he's going to need to. Mm-hmm. Tennessee, 8 sacks on the year already, 2 weeks in, 8 sacks. And you talk about the questions on the offensive line. Can they protect Gunnar Stockton? I want to see that happen. Who's going to win the rushing battle, though? As much as we want to talk about Gunnar Stockton, Joey Aguilar, and the 2 quarterbacks there, it really is going to come down to the 2 running backs. You take a look at Star Thomas for Tennessee. You take a look at Deshaun Bishop. Peyton Lewis is getting some carries for them as well. People forget that last year, as much as the hype and the press clippings went to Nico, the rushing attack at Tennessee was the real story and the real power there. I don't think they've lost that. I really don't. And you take a look at what they have. They have 7 rushing touchdowns on the year. Can they run the football against this Georgia front? Same thing with Georgia. are you able to run against the Tennessee front to make the game easier for Gunnar Stockton? I want to see which one of those things are going to happen. The other one, too, Georgia only has 2 sacks on the year. You have played Marshall and Austin Peay. It is inexcusable to have 2 sacks on the year and be in a Kirby Smart-led defense and not have 2 sacks. You have to get after Aguilar. You have to sack him. The kid has been protected. He has zero sacks on the year. They have protected him well. They've run the ball well. Again, I'm not going to act like Syracuse or Eastern Tennessee State University is the same type of pass rush that Georgia is going to bring. But again, if you're asking me to pick within this game, that's what I'm going to point out to everyone. I think that this is a snake pit. I think this is a snake pit for Georgia. I think if I'm Josh Heupel, I'm going into the locker room and I am saying that this is our one chance because we're not going to play Georgia next year, it looks like. Tennessee doesn't get Georgia. When's the next time you're going to get another crack at this team? It could be 2 years from now. It could be as much as 4 years from now that Georgia gets to play Tennessee again. So if I'm Heupel, I'm bringing that up. This is our one shot. We got him at home. We got him at Neyland. And I believe Georgia's won 9 or 10 straight in this game.
They lost in 16 on the Hail Mary.
Okay, so until Tennessee does
it's 8 in a row.
So until Tennessee beats Georgia, I'll pick Georgia in this game. But I feel like this is a snake ready or coiled up, ready to attack. If I'm Georgia, I'm very leery about this game. You better go in there, and this better be a Georgia A game, or they could get bit in Neyland Stadium. I'll pick Georgia still.
When we came into the season, we knew this was the game we were going to find out about Georgia. The first 2 we weren't going to know. Like, we're going to say, all right, what are you? You know, the last we saw was a late first half or all second half loss to Notre Dame. And we're kind of like, yeah, but. So this is going to be interesting. There's a lot of riding on the line here. You mentioned Gunnar Stockton's legs. I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of quarterback design runs put in the game plan to really stretch and use that advantage and loosen up the defense a little bit and let him get comfortable from that perspective and on the road.
Yeah. I need to see him win a big game. I need to see him do something more than what he's done before. And then he'll earn my trust, but I don't trust him at all. It's the thing. It's like I look at the Georgia team and I go, man, I like this piece. Oh, this is a nice piece here. This is a really good. I would love to have this kid on my team. I can do that through the roster. And then I get to the quarterback and I go, I'm circling in red pen and going, there's the thing that concerns me the most. So we'll see. We'll see on this one. All right, Fresh, let's go to our third game this weekend. It is the upstart 2-0 USF, the South Florida Bulls. They're number 18 in the country. They're going on the road again to face another highly ranked team, the Miami Hurricanes. When are people going to learn? At time of record, it's an 18.5 point spread. Over under is 56.5. Does South Florida magic still happen here, Fresh?
The whole team in the country, I think, has 2 ranked wins, which is fantastic. You beat Boise State and you go into the swamp and you take care of the Gators. This is going to be the biggest test because now everyone has your attention. You're getting all the praise. You're getting the spotlight. And I think Miami's like, well, all right, we got something to prove. It's going to really, Todd Orlando's defense for USF is the reason why they're playing so well. The way they shut down Boise State. Obviously, they didn't have Ashton Genty, which is a huge difference. But they really took anything out, all air of that entire offense. And then they shut down Billy Napier, which is not hard, and DJ Lagway in the Gators. The one thing that I noticed that Lagway didn't do, and Napier never called, they never actually tried to stretch the USF defense. They never tried to get vertical and challenge the secondary You figure with that offensive line, they could have at least had some pass protection, but they never really had that success. They just tried to run the ball with Ball, and it was not there. And then they let that defense of that front seven for Todd Orlando's defense get after it and really cause some disruption. And their DBs got confident and really had success in the second half. You let the momentum build for a team like that. That's what gave them the shot. They were like, all right, in the fourth quarter, they were there. They had a chance. How many red zone opportunities the Gators had where they failed getting touchdown, had to set up for field goals? They had 3 field goals in the first half. It was 6-9 at halftime. You had 3 drives into the red zone they couldn't score. That's Todd Orlando's defense shutting it down in the 20s, giving up field goals instead of touchdowns. If Carson Beck and that Hurricane offense want to get after it, they are going to need to be able to get after it and score touchdowns in the red zone. And that's how you beat it. If you're getting held to field goals again, USF's going to have a chance. The reason, that 4-point differential is a big difference when you're trying to pull up an upset. This is actually a nice little challenge for USF. You had all the hype. You had the success. Now you have to back it up. Now everybody's cheering for you. Everybody's loving you. Everyone wants you ranked in the top 25, and rightfully so. You're ranked in my top 25. But now it's putting up and shut up. And, Byron Brown has been very opportunistic. He's been very creative. He has not turned the ball over. He has used his legs. He had a couple of great big-time third-down runs versus Florida. If he can do that, it allows the receivers, allows the running game to continue to keep evolving and keeping the clock moving and keep possession and playing that a team-first mentality. They're going to come in with a vibe. They're playing with house money. They're going to be energized. How does Miami handle that? How does Miami understand that we have to go out and just take care of business and dominate? Carson Beck, come out there and execute. They haven't unleashed him again. It's only 2 touchdowns a game, usually about 250 yards. He hasn't had that 350, that 4-touchdown passing game. Maybe this is the chance for you to make a statement because everybody's looking, all right, USF's ranked. Miami's playing them. Momentum's behind the Bulls. Come out there and make a statement and get after it and put some big points on the board and really shock some people. That actually is going to help Miami more than anything because they already have their attention, but it's a chance that everyone's going to be watching. But be efficient, be effective. You don't have to do too much. Do what Gators didn't do. Push the ball downfield. Challenge the secondary every once in a while. Now, yes, there were Gator receivers when they did go downfield, drop the ball. There was a big drop on 4th down late to end the ball game or 3rd down on the last drive for Florida. So if you're going to go deep on them, you're going to challenge them. You have to also be efficient and catch the football. But the opportunities are there. Don't be scared of their momentum. Be confident in your own if you're the Hurricanes and just do what you have to do. If this is a real Miami Hurricane football team that we know from the past, you are going to come out there with confidence. You're going to come out there with toughness and some swagger, and you're going to put it to them. And you have to have that. If you're going to be a true national championship contender and say the U is back, you need to come out in this game and put the boots to USF and don't let them hang around and show that you're actually meaning business. Because the real Hurricanes, the real you, they would be like, all right, whatever, we'll put 50 on you. You have to have that mentality. If you're coming out and squeaking this one out, hey, more power to USF and that offense and that defense and the Bulls. That's a big program. They can obviously recruit in that Tampa area. But that also puts a big dent in Miami's, street cred. This is a big effort. I think USF's going to give them a tough battle in the first half, but back-to-back weeks of playing an SEC, opponent, eventually the wear and tear of that depth of USF might be hit up. Yes, they have a lot of transfers from the SEC schools and ACC and Big 12 schools, but at some point they don't have that that 3 deep that pays off. I think USF plays around the 18.5. I saw 16.5 earlier, so that number going up. Actually, I still think that Miami can cover the 18.5. I think they're still a 3-touchdown favorite, and they have a chance to really make a statement now that USF is ranked. It gives them another ranked win potentially that they weren't expecting. USF will give them a fight in the first half. The Hurricanes will show that they need business in the second half, put them away just because of depth and experience.
Press, I love my pro wrestling analogies here, and I feel like the USF Bulls snuck up behind someone in an intercontinental title match and got a quick win over them in Boise State. Like, whoa, wow, everyone's shocked. And then they took a steel chair to the world champion. And again, I use world champion lightly, but that's the analogy, to the Florida Gators in their eyes. Because again, Florida's in the SEC, so to them,
flagship.
Yeah, it's a world champion to them in that conference. At the same time, too, sooner or later, Miami's going to start growing eyes in the back of their head, and you're not going to be able to sneak up on them. The important thing for Miami to do in this one is that they need to come out and ideally, if Miami wins the toss, take the ball. Take the ball and put up points. Again, if I'm Carson Beck, I'm gripping it, ripping it, and letting it go downfield. I'm going to see if you can cover these wide receivers. I'm going to put the ball up for CJ Daniels. I'm going to put the ball up for Lofton, Tooney, all those guys. I am going to see if you can cover my wide receivers down the field consistently. I'm going to make you play a deep zone with 2 high safeties over top because you're so worried about me pushing the ball down the field. Carson Beck, with all the hate from last year and all the nonsense that went on during the offseason and girlfriends and cars and looking like Sid from Ice Age, he has really played very well in these first 2 games. Again, Notre Dame was impressive. I'll give him credit for that. That's a tough defense to throw the ball against. Last week against Bethune-Cookman, that was leg 1 of Miami's Grand Circle Tour of the state of Florida. They get the city of Tampa coming in this week. They got the Gators next week from Gainesville. They got Tallahassee the week after that. All they're missing is either UNF up here in Jacksonville, which I don't think they have a football team anymore.
Nope, they don't. JU doesn't have that. West Florida. They can still keep making that tour.
Play the Argos. Play the Argonauts, the University of West Florida Argonauts. I am an alumni of the University of West Florida, so play the alumni team. Anyways, I'm telling you here, Fresh, I think that Miami is going to be aware of what South Florida brings. It'll be interesting to see how long South Florida can keep this close. Because, again, the longer this game hangs around like a touchdown type of game, because I don't think South Florida is just going to roll over and play dead. Like, Miami is going to have to put it on them for 4 quarters and blow them out. Like, again, that's a possibility of what you do. But if South Florida is that whole alligator blood, not leaving, not dying off here, they're hanging around by 7 points for this entire game, Miami could have their hands full in the 4th quarter. That's when upsets happen. So, again, I'm with you. I like Miami with the 18.5 right now. Again, I'd be right at the 20.5 I'd like. The minute you start going over 21 is when I would start going, I probably would stay away.
So here's one question I'm posed to you, because USF already has a win over Boise State and a win over Florida, Gainesville. Really their only shot really to make the playoff, in grand scheme of things, is to win the American Conference.
Mm-hmm.
If this game starts getting distance, we'll say distance starting to grow, do you start pulling some starters with the mindset of, I'm going to keep the guys healthy, get my depth guys to get some playing time, but keep my starters ready because the American Conference schedule, I've got to have my guys ready to rock and roll. We're probably not going to make an at-large bid. I'm just being real here. But we have our best chances to go out there and worry about the Memphises, the Navies, the Tulanes of the world in our own conference and go take care of business, win that, get playoff, be the best, power group of 5 team, and then make a run there, showing that we've already been able to hold up against one team, we can play against another. If we're not going to get the win, let's, conserve some guys. Don't get the guys hurt in a game where they're still, don't, lose the battle, win the war mentality kind of thing. Right. I think that's how if I was the head coach, not that I want to throw the white flag up, there would have to be a certain number of all right, we're not winning this ball game, but I need to get my guys some depth and get some playing time. I need to rest my starters, live to fight another day, and there's bigger things potentially at play. I don't know how you approach that, but that's kind of how I would advance.
It's the same as if a baseball team throwing a position pitcher when your bullpen's exhausted. You're getting blown out. You throw out the backup third baseman, utility infielder guy to pitch 3 innings, get shellacked, and have an ERA of 94. Again, I think the number in that realm is if you're down like 35, if you're down 5 touchdowns in the 3rd quarter, I would consider pulling my starters and saying, all right, guys, let's get some backups in here. Let's get them a run at it because we're going to need the depth. And there's a 2-way street on that one. You pull the starters and say, hey, guys, it wasn't our night tonight. Let's get the young guys in there. We're not going to come back and win this game. I might, if I'm down 35, I'll give you 1 drive to make it 28, but that's not happening. Pull the starters and let the backups get some run and see what they can do and get that experience and then prepare yourself for conference play. Yeah, I'm on the same page.
Yeah, I think that's just the best way to come about it. Just sort of looking at there are bigger things at play.
Yeah, 35 would be my number though. And actually, I'd say anything over 30. If I'm getting blown out by 30 plus, I'd probably put the younger kids in. All right, Fresh. Down to Baton Rouge. This is a night game. First night game in Baton Rouge for the season. The 1-1 Florida Gators are going into LSU. LSU is 2-0 on the year, but has not looked like world beaters yet. At time of record, LSU is a 9.5 point favorite. Over under in this game is set at 54.5. The talk all week is going to be on Billy Napier and the fact that he lost to USF. We think USF is a good football team, but the Florida Gators are kind of in shambles. And I think that we're seeing that Billy Napier he might not be the coach for the Gators. If he loses this game, he will have a losing record, 20-21 through 41 games. I don't know here, Fresh. I don't know how Florida can pull the nose up on this one because I think the avalanche is about ready to hit. The smoke kind of flying. We know that things are burning. The house could be on fire. It's a scary place to be for the Florida Gators. But again, too, you back a Gator into a corner, could come out and bite you. LSU's got to take Florida very seriously because I don't know how those Gator players are handling being told that they suck for 5 straight days.
I mean, they were just embarrassed. I'm going to call a spade a spade. Their coach let them down. We already talked about in our recap episode about the timeouts not being used until 30 seconds left on the clock with USF on the ball at the 8-yard line, where it was basically a gimme. The game was going to be over. Not challenging the USF secondary. Like, the play calling was terrible. The game management's terrible. It's been that way for a long time. And then also looking at it where there's some significant discussion and rumors that DJ Legway is still hurt, and he should have gotten surgery in the offseason, didn't want to, and he's trying to power through, but it's definitely holding him from playing at his normal and high level. There are some serious issues, and going to one of those hostile environments in the nation against a team that you beat last year, against a team that has a roster that's been much more overhauled, there's going to be a lot of pent-up fire for this game. And LSU Florida over the years has actually become one of the best rivalries in college football. It's funny how Florida and LSU, the two of them going back and forth being a crossover, they have developed a very spicy back and forth rivalry. There's multiple memories, the Tebow years and Les Miles and going forward to fourth down all the time with Brad Hester and obviously the shoe gate one time. Like there have been times where these two schools, they get after it. Can Billy Napier actually go win a big game? I don't know. The team is actually in a good spot. I don't know if he can actually go and win a big game. There's always an excuse from Florida fans or people from the coaching staff. This is going to require a batten down the hatches, rally, a circle the wagons, metaphor you want to put out there. Everything needs to come into play, and they have to play perfect on the road on Saturday night to beat LSU. Now, you mentioned LSU kind of looking lethargic. The defense has played well. Their offense, Garrett Nussmeier in that offense, which has been loaded up on, is still, there's a lot to be wanted. I gave him a pass versus Clemson, but last week, very similar. There were some offenses that were like, all right, you're playing a significantly lesser opponent and you are not executing at all. It has been, La Tech, 23 points on them, has been concerned. So I need to come out and see Garrett Nussmeier and that entire offense really get after it, get vertical to passing game, attack, be aggressive, and go out there and show that you're actually a national title contender. People keep saying LSU national champion here and LSU national title contender. Lee Corso picked them to win the title. I need to see it from an offensive perspective. You're not going to be able to win. This is not the old days, not the 80s or early 90s where defenses can win the championship and you're going to have to play a stellar defense all the time. That Georgia 28 team had a historic defense. So did the 19 team, but their offenses were terrible, and that's why they didn't win. You need to have balance. So Garrett Nussmeier on the LSU offense got to show up. The Florida side, you got nothing to lose. If you go out there and suck, so what? Everyone expects you to suck. You need to come out guns a-blazing and you start throwing darts and being, I want to see the DJ Lagway that everyone talked about as being the best quarterback coming out of high school, number 1 overall recruit. Because honestly, I haven't seen consistency. It's like one game is great, one game is or he gets hurt. He's fragile. So where is this loose? This is his, third year on campus? It's time for him to start flashing some big time boy plays and making something happen. So there's a lot on the line. Not to mention, you're 1-2 with losses at LSU and to South Florida. Look at the rest of that schedule for Florida. 3 wins might be the max. Napier will not make it to Georgia, Florida. They'll fire him the week before. Entire way to, revitalize the entire program. So this is a huge moment in Florida Gator football history. And honestly, I think deep down, the fans actually want them to lose, so they fire Napier. I think that is what we're at right now. And I'm going to say LSU is going to put the boots to them. It's going to get ugly late because they know they have blood in the water. And all you have to do is start putting negative momentum on their end and let them collapse on the road. They don't have leadership at the front of the team, and that will show evident late in the fourth quarter when LSU gets momentum and starts pouring it on them.
Napier's 1-2 against LSU. And Bubble Screen Billy here has not been a good coach. I don't think he knows how to utilize the weapons they has at Florida. But I think back to last year. Florida is 4-5, 9 games into the season. Everyone is just eviscerating Bubble Screen Billy and the Florida Gators. And LSU comes into the swamp and gets beat pretty handedly by the Gators. And then on top of that, Florida the next week goes and beats Ole Miss and then beats Florida State to salvage their season at 7-5 and go into a bowl game here. I think LSU, and the fact is that you're playing in Baton Rouge at night is going to add in a little extra factor for this. And I think Brian Keller needs this game. What I need to see from LSU, again, I feel like sometimes I just hit rewind and put some on repeat because what I'm looking at, Caden Durham, you are averaging 3.4 yards a carry. I need to see this LSU offensive line open up some running lanes for their running backs there. I know everyone's going to say, you have Garrett Nussmeier, who's going to be a top 10 NFL draft pick who can throw the ball all over the field. I need to see him be able to have a running game to supplement there, or the ceiling that the LSU Tigers are going to hit is going to be pretty hard when you get to it because they have to be able to run the football. They're not going to face these average pass defenses, and let's call it what they have. Clemson's strength is in their front four. Their front four, their pass rush was in the offensive line. Again, they have decent cornerbacks, but I wouldn't say that they have one of the better defensive backfields in the country. Same thing here with Florida coming in here. I wouldn't say Florida's got one of the best defensive back in the country, but sooner or later, LSU is going to have a moment where they're not able to throw the football. Are they able to run the ball? Is Durham able to get 5-6 yards a carry? Is he able to make someone pay for dropping 7 or 8 into coverage and making Nussmeier's life very, very difficult? I don't necessarily know if that's the Florida Gators. If it's me this week, if I'm Billy Napier, I'm not leaving anything to chance. I'm pulling out every trick. I'm pulling out every gadget play. I'm pulling out everything in my arsenal because, big if, Florida can go into Baton Rouge, win this football game. All of a sudden, all that noise is silenced.
Mm-hmm.
Every ounce of the noise from everything is silenced. And people aren't going to talk. I know Florida's schedule is a brutal roll after this. But you give something for the boosters to hang on. You give the president something to hang on and say, look, we are able to go into LSU, win that football game. Billy Napier would probably buy himself the rest of the season. If they win this football game, I think that does not mean I think he'll be the head coach of the Florida Gators for the 26-27 season. It does mean I think if he can win this football game, he will be the head coach for the remainder of this season. I don't know if they can do it here, Fresh, because everything I saw from UF was awful last week. Give me LSU. I like LSU in the points in this one. I think it's a 10-point game. But watch out. I just get this weird feeling that Florida's going to pick themselves off the mat and throw a couple of haymakers early on to LSU. LSU's got to weather that storm.
Yeah, LSU's weather the storm, stay locked in, take care of business, let the crowd become a thing. I mean, I'm trying to think, TJ Lagway on the road, can he handle that environment? Is that too much? We'll find out, but they're going to have, Florida's going to play desperate, significantly, very, very desperate to keep the season alive and not let things get worse than they really are.
All right, Fresh, let's go to our last game of the week. It is in South Bend, Indiana. Texas A&M Aggies are traveling up to South Bend. The Irish were off last weekend, and they're 0-1 the year after that loss to Miami in week 1. Right now, at time of record, is a 6.5-point favorite. Over-under is set at 49.5. I think Texas A&M really wants this game, but again, who has Texas A&M really played? Notre Dame had a week off to get over that Miami loss. Everything kind of points to Notre Dame to win this game. But I think Mike Elko will have it.
This is going to be a real gut check game for Notre Dame. Because they actually showed a lot of fire in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter versus Miami. Miami was putting the boost to them. And they stormed back. Carr looked good late, made some big-time throws, made some big-time runs with his feet, and they made it a ball game. And you kind of saw, if that was like the third quarter to the fourth quarter, I think Notre Dame wins the game. But it was only the fourth quarter. They had wasted time getting themselves going, and that kind of held them back. If they can use this week off, really layering out, the defense now has an extra week to get comfortable. CJ Carr, they've seen some tape, can evaluate that and move forward. That gives them something to really work with. We'll find out about A&M, but that gives them something to work with. I think Marcus Freeman has the guys to play and has the guys to stay focused and driven. The one thing I want to see Notre Dame do more of is run the ball. 16 combined carries between Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love for 78 yards, and they lost by 3. If you can start running the football a little more effectively, you control the clock, keep your defense rested, and you're in a great spot. But Miami jumped them early, and that was a problem. If they can withstand the initial surge, they're okay. Revenge factor for A&M is a big deal here. It was a tight ball game in College Station to open the season last year. They fought really well. Obviously, the rosters have changed over somewhat, but the biggest difference is Connor Wegman's not there as quarterback, and Marcel Reese is the quarterback. Marcel Reese is a lot better. If he can get with the receiver, especially Captain Concepcion, that gives them a much more of a fluid offense and a real big legit tack there for A&M. I think they're hungry. They have something to play for. But in big games, we have not seen A&M step up. We heard all this talk last year, going into Auburn, have a chance to play for an SEC, get themselves the SEC title game. They choke at Auburn. And then obviously the big game versus Texas the week after, and they laid a big dud offensively. They couldn't score enough, and the defense barely hung on, and they lost. And Mike Elko needs to actually win a big game at A&M. And this has the chance to be in that game. Going up there to South Bend into Notre Dame Stadium, historic venue, with everybody watching and getting the job done. So I've gone back and forth on this one.
Really?
I think it's going to be another physical war. The more I kept thinking about it, that fourth quarter for Notre Dame really hung with me. The 7.5, though, is a little high. I would actually take A&M in the points, but I think Notre Dame wins by a field goal.
Nice. I like Mike Elko quite a bit. I like Marcel Reed as a quarterback, and I like what they've done there. But again, Texas A&M, here's the thing I hate about cupcake games. These teams schedule cupcake games, and you don't blow them out and put crazy stats up. I think that lives with you. And on the reverse side of it is you could be a coach saying, we're just going to get out of here with a win. We're going to get some guys some run, and we'll walk out winning 34-0 or 35-7, whatever you get to. And then when you get to a big game, you're like, well, wait a minute. Why don't these players have better stats? Why didn't they put it on them a little bit more and kind of flex the muscle and show how good they are? That's what I kind of wonder about Texas A&M. Which Texas A&M team are we going to get? Are we going to get the team last year that we saw that was a game or two away from playing in the SEC title game? Are we going to get what Marcel Reed are we going to get? Are we going to get that electric, dynamic, dual threat quarterback as well? Are we going to get a pass rush from Texas A&M that's just going to make CJ Carr's life next to impossible? I mean, Texas A&M, with the lack of the point production, they still got 7 sacks in their 2 cupcake games. I think that there's a lot for Notre Dame to think about, but the thing that I really like is, one, I'll give you that too, Fresh. Like how Notre Dame came back on Miami, didn't give up in that game, and 2, that they've had a week off to prepare for this game where Texas A&M had to play for it as well. I don't understand why Jeremiah Love didn't get more touches against Miami, only 10 catches or only 10 carries. And then he also had 4 catches for 26 yards. This is a kid that you got to get 20, 25 touches a game. Like, you just have to get it to him. I know they like the Price kid a lot, but again, Jeremiah Love is going to be the number 1 running back drafted next April. They have to lean on him a little bit, make CJ Carr's life easier. I like Notre Dame too outright. I think Notre Dame's defense is better. I think that they're playing at home. Those fans are going to be in a frenzy, and you're going to want to win your home opener. So give me Notre Dame. But I'm with you. I like Texas A&M and those points. It makes me nervous. If that line moves to 7.5, I'm all over Texas A&M. I still like A&M a lot at 6.5, but again, I'll be watching that one.
Yeah, it was 7.5 early in the morning, so he's bouncing back and forth. That's a number right there that really is coming to play. If it's over a touchdown, I think it's going to be a brawl. It's going to be very low scoring, something from that 20 to 14, 20 to 17 kind of range. Not a blowout either way. It's going to be a fourth quarter brawl, and it might look ugly at times because both these teams are going to be very dominant at the line of scrimmage.
All right, Fresh. All right, fun time at this point. Each week, Fresh, you give us a fresh pick. You have so far, you cannot pick any of these teams: Hawaii, Georgia Southern, Utah, and Illinois. Who's your fresh pick of the week? You got 1, 2.
I'm 3-1 on the season right now. I got 1 this week. We are going to dive into the backyard brawl. Pitt minus 6.5. I like the Cade Bell offense. Eli Holstein, that entire offense across the board. Very solid ground game. There's a wounded duck there in West Virginia. There's a lot of flow from Pitt. They have some momentum. I think they want to get payback. They want to make a statement. They're going to walk into Morgantown, and they're going to put it on them. Pitt Panthers cover the 6.5.
Yeah, especially with that being a rivalry game. I love that pick there. I think I'm definitely going to be taking a look at that game too.
Yeah, this is one of those where you have a chance. If you have a wounded animal, you don't show no mercy. Get after it and put them down.
Yeah. All right, folks, you've been listening to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. Hey, before we get out of here, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, get notified every single time we drop a new episode, because you're not going to want to miss what we got coming in the near future. Make sure you're locked in, because we got something special coming up in week number 4. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is possible. Make sure you're checking out SpinnableSports.com, because the Irrational Confidence Podcast is part of SpinnableSports.com. Like, subscribe wherever you get your podcast from. Leave us that 5-star review, because you guys know Fresh and I were those 2 5-star prospects. Fresh, that's all I got. It's week number 3. I'm locked in on this week, and I cannot wait to watch some college football. This is going to be a great weekend.
Everybody, stock up on some snacks, get some food, stock up on beverages of choice, find a nice spot on the couch, and just tune in from 9 a.m. for game day or for big noon kickoff or whatever you want to watch all the way through until whenever that last game ends on the West Coast, and just have a marathon of like college football Saturday. It's going to be a great day. Have fun with it. Hit us up on social. Subscribe to the Spinnable Sports YouTube channel. Let us know what's on your mind on Twitter through all of our different handles. And we'll talk to you guys for the recap of week 3. And with that, bye, y'all.